Welcome to A-Level Geography at Clapton Girls Academy. We follow the AQA specification and we have two A-Level papers. Human paper, which looks at changing places, globalisation and urban environments. The physical paper, looking at hazards, deserts, carbon and water. And then we do something called the NEA. At Clapton Girls Academy, geography is a very popular subject. We have two classes in year 12 and two classes in year 13. Many of our geographers go on to study geography at degree and beyond, and many of our geographers come back to see us as part of the alumni and come and talk to us about their experiences. We try and get out and about as much as possible. We go on many trips. We've been to Iceland and Sicily. We want to expand our offer and go out on more trips. However, at the moment, due to COVID, that we've been quite restricted, but we've had to be quite inventive in how we actually go out and about and try and get very excited about geography in our communities and geography further afield. It's a really fascinating subject. It's a subject that actually links with many other A-levels as well. So lots of our students do A-level geography, physics and maths. Some of them will do A-level psychology, sociology and geography. We've equally got students who do biology and chemistry and geography, and then we've got students who do history, government and politics and geography, or philosophy and ethics and geography and English. So it's a subject, because it's an art subject and a science subject, it's a subject that actually bridges the gap between both of those different specialisms. So it really is something that we're very excited to teach, and we're very proud of our geographers, and you are lucky enough to have a teaching staff that are very experienced, have been teaching for many years, and also being taught in a geography room where you have access to specialist equipment to support you with your fieldwork and your studies. In terms of what we study in geography at Clapton Girls Academy, we study human geography and physical geography. And one of the topics we do in human geography is called changing places. And the idea here is that you learn about the place that you live in. We also learn about a far place in another part of the world. And we spend time looking at what makes up a place. And if you have a look at this word cloud here, you can see all the different words that the geographers in our sixth form came up with when thinking about their place. So how people feel about a place, how people engage with a place. And you can see here that often lots of people associate a place with culture, somewhere new, somewhere where you have an experience, somewhere that's local. And you can see all the different words here that people have come up with to think about their place and where they actually live within their own environment and the environment close to Clapton Girls Academy. So changing places is a core topic, and the idea of the lesson today is to think about what gives people a sense of place, to think about the different categories of a place, and to think about what the difference is between a sense of place and how people perceive their place, and how people perceive the place that they're actually in, and how they perceive the place changing over time. And if you ask people of different age groups, different genders, different backgrounds, their idea about the place that they're in, they will have very different responses. And that's one of the things we explore in A-Level Geography in the Changing Places unit. If you have a look at this picture, what I'd like you to do now, as a do now activity, is to describe this place. So I want you to think about where in the world it might be. I want you to think about what makes up the place. Is it populated? What's around this image? What does it look like? What part of the world do you think it might be geographically? What's the ecosystem like? What kind of place do you think this actually is that's being represented here in this photograph? And one of the things we do is think about these different places, and we try and think about our own perception of the place. And big indicators here is that you can see you've got islands. We call these atolls. There's a chain of islands here. You probably might have come up with this idea that they're tropical because you've got these beautiful blue oceans and you've got these coral reefs surrounding these islands. You might actually also say they're uninhabited. Now, all of those are really good words associated with this place. But, you know, it's equally okay to say that this looks very isolated, desolate, deserted. It's somewhere that looks stark, you know, those sorts of things. It's very different how we perceive the place. Everybody as a geographer will perceive a place very differently. So really the big questions we're looking at today: why does place even matter? What's the difference between place and space? Why do places mean different things to different people? And then really, what is the definition of place? And what you've done at GCSE already is very different to what we do now at A-level. So at GCSE, in terms of place at GCSE literally was location. So you've got a map, you have a point on a map and you're describing the location, and you might use grid references and say, you know, this particular town is in grid square 0457, and you'd be able to locate it. At A-level, it becomes much more complex because it involves people's perception and it involves feelings and meaning. And essentially, place now is subjective, and it could be subjective, it could be socially affected, it could be culturally affected by other people's perception and views on the actual place. So you can see here that you know, a sense of place really is something that's dynamic. Geography is constantly changing, and we as geographers study the features, the characteristics and the meanings of place. What would you say if you were in a lift with someone and you only had 30 seconds to describe Hackney? So what I'd like to do is think about 30 seconds of a conversation to describe Hackney. If you're not from Hackney and you don't live within Hackney, I want you to think about describing the place that you live in. And then I want you to think of a place that's special to you and write 20 words to describe that place. And that place could be somewhere you go on holiday. It could be somewhere where your family is based. It could be somewhere where you've visited, you know, and I want you to think about your feelings about the place. And I want you to think about what the positives and negatives might be about that place. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to really think about a place that's special to you and why it has is special to you. We do this exercise in school. We compare paragraphs and we think about how some places are important for some people and some places are important for other people. And also the idea of how people associate with their own place that means something to them. It's really easy to think about how people respond to place in terms of their age, their gender, their culture, and how places mean different things to different people, and why they mean different things to different people. So you're going to look at the next few slides, and I want you to click through the slides, and I want you to have a think about how different people might respond to these different places. The first question to ask here is really, where is this place? What does it look like? If you're a young person, what would you think of this place? If you're an elderly person, what would you think of this place? This image was obviously taken pre-COVID. How has COVID affected our sense of place and people's feelings about place? Do people feel quite nervous now about going out to a place like this? What time of year was this image taken? You know, what was it like on the road? What's it like on the pavements? You know, what kind of atmosphere is here? So these are all important things to think about when you think about the geography of a place. What about this place? What do you think about this place? Where is it? If you are elderly or older, what would you think of this place? If you were young, what would you think of this place? What are you expecting to find in this place? What kind of image in your head does this give you in terms of place? What films or books do you associate with this place? All of these things are thinking at a deeper level about our environment and our surroundings. What about this place? Where is it? What part of the world is it? Why would you think it's that part of the world? What are the clues and the images in the photos? What's the sea like? What are the buildings like? Why are they like that? You know, all of these big questions that you would ask when looking at a place like this. What about this place? What questions as a geographer do you want to ask the people in this picture? Where is this place? What part of the world is it? Who are these people? Where have they come from? What's their story? What's their life story? All of these things are really important questions to be thinking about as a geographer. Why have we put this on this slide? We are nice people. We're human. Now, why do people feel they have to put that up there? Is it because, if you think about the previous slide, people might be scared of people who perhaps look like they don't have a home or a house or shelter? Is it that we think people are dangerous? Is it that our perception is very different just by looking at some of these images? You know, how images can be manipulated, how images can be interpreted in different ways by different people. That last image that you saw was a group of refugees who are living in London, who've come to England and come to London for a better life, and have found themselves in a situation where they feel that they're being judged simply by the fact that they've come to escape their home life, their regime back in their home countries. They've come into the UK and they feel they have to justify themselves, and they feel they have to say, you know, explicitly, we are nice people. They've had to explicitly say that. So in terms of place, do they feel like insiders or do they feel like outsiders? So as geographers, we really define this as being a sense of place, something that makes a place special. And it's the memories you associate with that place. It's the experience that you have with your friends and your family and people around you. Every single place has different qualities and different meanings to different people, and it makes it special for a person because of that. And it's really important that we recognise that everyone has a view on the place that they are in and the places that they visit and the places that they belong to or feel a sense of attachment to. People's experience of place is enhanced by recognising and valuing the place and the surroundings that people are in. And as geographers, this is something we really do explore in Year 12 A-Level Geography. This is a really interesting paragraph from a book that I read, and some of you might have read it as well. And I want you to think about who wrote the book by the clues that are in here, and how a sense of place has changed for this person, and how even though this particular person is not at home or where they would consider home, they still associate where they were as their home. And a really pertinent sentence: I close my eyes and for a moment I'm back in my valley, the high snow-topped mountains, the green waving fields, the fresh blue rivers. My heart smiles when I look at the people. So this is somebody who's left their home, had to leave their home, and has come into the UK and settled in a part of England called Birmingham, and settled there, and really in a dream at night thinks about their home and thinks about their place. And even though they're somewhere new, they're still very strongly attached and associating themselves with their beloved homeland. In this sense, their beloved homeland is Pakistan. So this article was actually, or this is actually part of the information regarding Malala, who, as you may know, was a girl on her way to school on a bus, and was shot for going to school. And she was flown out of her home country, and she was flown to the UK to be treated in a hospital here, and has since gone on to do lots and lots of work on human rights and girls' rights to education, and the fact that everybody deserves an education and access to an education, no matter what their background, gender, etc. And so she's done an awful lot of work since coming to the United Kingdom, spent her time at school here, went on to Oxford University to study, and has set up charities looking at trying to make sure that everybody gets the opportunity to learn. So this is Malala's hometown. This is in the Swat Valley, so you can see what she meant when she was describing the mountains and the rivers and the noise and the valleys and the lush green vegetation. And this is where she lived, and this is where she was used to, so where she grew up, and then she was moved through no fault of her own to Birmingham to continue her education, get her treatment, etc. And now she has a voice. She's able to talk about how she wants everybody in the world to have access to a free and high quality education. The key terms here are location, which we talked about, GCSE, language, where it is on a map, locale, different people and a different place, and then sense of place, which is what we're going to do at A-level, the emotional attachment that people have to a place. And then we need to think about internal and external relationships. So endogenous factors would be, what is it that's actually underpinning the place that you live in? So the topography, the shape of the land, the physical geography, the built environment, the population and demography, the economic characteristics, the infrastructure, and then exogenous factors, which are relationships with other places. So how one place relates to another place, such as globalization. In this place here, some of you might know this place, but this place is very famous for a festival. You can see that in the bottom picture. But it's also a very important place of pilgrimage. It has lots of associations with sort of King Arthur and medieval legend. It's also a very beautiful wetland, marshland environment. It has lots of beautiful houses. And it's a place, if we think about it in terms of what we've been saying in geography, in terms of location, 23 miles south of Bristol. In terms of its locale, it has an abbey, Glastonbury Tor, it has New Age culture, the final resting place of King Arthur. In terms of sense of place, there's a spiritual importance for people, and the festival evokes memories and emotions and connections for people that have been to it. So you can see how it fits into the various different terms that we've been looking at so far in this taster session. Essentially, a place can have very different meanings to different people. And we have the images of the festival. And when you think of the term Glastonbury, lots of people think about one of the world's biggest festivals that goes on over sort of 3 days. And it has a huge following around the world, and 200,000 people gather on this very small part of Somerset. In a field, basically, that was set up by a family in the 1970s in a farmer's field. But Glastonbury itself is a place for people that live there, obviously. They might not associate themselves so much or with that much attachment to the festival. They might associate themselves more with other things to do with their place that they live in and the place that they associate with. I'd like you to click on the link and have a look at the impact or the after effects of the festival on the Glastonbury area. This was taken from the 2016 festival, and this was an article in The Guardian looking at the impact of a festival that tries to be sustainable, but is it really a sustainable festival when 200,000 extra people descend on a place in order to spend that weekend listening to music and being with friends, family and relatives, etc. So it's a really interesting article for you to have a look at, and lots of things we do in A-level geography are looking at articles and making sure that we do some super curricular activities. So we go to lectures, we listen to eminent professors in their field and lecturers, and we talk about the big issues really. So we spend a lot of time in year 12 talking about climate change and the impact of climate change, what we can do about it. We also look at things like governance, poverty, globalization, how all those things impact people's everyday lives, how they impact how people respond to a hazard, how they impact how people can actually relate to other countries, how different countries support each other or not. So there's a lot of interesting big questions, and if you're somebody that's really interested in reading, somebody that's interested in exploring data, somebody that's interested in looking at the bigger picture and how countries interact and how people interact globally, geography is definitely the subject for you. Now, what about this place? So this place, again, means different things to different people. It's New York, it's the Twin Towers you can see here that are collapsing. And, you know, different people now go to this part of New York to visit, to pay their respects and to visit this place. And people have different attachments and different ideas about this place depending on their own perception. We have the 9/11 Memorial Museum. And in that museum, there are salvaged cars, firefighting trucks, uniforms, toys. The last column that was removed from the World Trade Center as it was cleared. And lots of these objects are now turned into art objects. If you click on the link, you can see how the museum has been set up and how people visit this now as a tourist attraction. And you might have views on that. And certainly people do have views on this place and what it means to different people and why it is for different reasons. How do you feel about this image? So these are the last bits of ironwork that were removed from the site and put into the museum. And you can see on the outside that people are taking photographs of it. It really is a place where people want to visit when they go to New York. It's a big tourist attraction. But like we said before, it's also somewhere where we have to think about the respect and the dignity that the people that were there and caught up in this disaster actually deserve. So it's quite a fine balance, and some of the people who are relatives of the victims of this atrocity and the victims of what happened here, some of the relatives aren't comfortable with the fact that this has now become a memorial site, and it's attracting lots of visitors and lots of tourists want to come here, and they're worried about the fact that people now are viewing it as part of a must thing or must do or must see activity if they visit New York. So, you know, I want you to think about how you feel about this as a place. Is it right that this is on the tourist map, as it were? And obviously there are similar places in the world that you might have been to that are associated with perhaps negative situations, but people go there to visit simply because this place has been put on the map, if you like, because of what's happened in its history. In terms of the museum itself, some people are worried that we have a museum in a place that for so many means so much sadness. And, you know, people there with selfie sticks, people there with their phones taking photographs and images of themselves there, which essentially is a place that's associated with such horror for so many people. And, you know, different people have different perceptions about this. Some people would argue it's really important to have this memorial, and other people feel that perhaps that isn't that dignified. But like we've said earlier, people's sense of place and attachment to place is very different, it's very individual and it's very personal. So what I'd like you to do is write about a place that's special to you. It could be a near place or a far place. And I want you to think about how your sense of place has changed as you've got older and moved through schools. So how's your sense of place changed over time? So I want you to think about a place that could be a near place, or it could be a place that's far away, but it's special to you. It could have been somewhere you went on holiday. It could be somewhere where you visited family and friends. It could be somewhere that you've read about, or somewhere that you really, really want to go to and you spent a lot of time thinking about. And also, you know, how's your sense of place changed as you've got older? Have places that were important to you once, are they not as important now? So you can use this as a guide to help you. A place that is special to you, where is it in terms of its location? Your words describing the feelings about that place and why that is a special place to you. So finally, I want you to think about what we've been looking at today, this idea of place. So what do geographers mean by place? How does our sense of place change as we grow up over time? What's the relationship between our identity and our place of birth or our homeland. Have you ever felt like an outsider? Where was that? Why was that? How were we made to feel like an outsider? And then this idea of the concept of place. What key terms have we learnt today? You can add those here. So what is it that marks a place on a map? What is it that makes up a place every day? What is an emotional attachment to a place? The idea that a landscape might be anywhere. What is a clone town? When behaviour differs from the norm, how does this make people or groups of people feel uncomfortable?